Hello and welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be creating some Christmas cards where the background is the focus, because I love creating with things like background foil plates, embossing folders, things like that, and making them the focus of the card rather than the background. So we're going to be using some of this month's Spellbinders clubs to do that, and so I'll show you them as we go along. So for my first card I'm going to use this Glimmer of the Month club. So you get this kind of background of tree lights, and then you get the Merry Christmas sentiment with the die to cut that out. And I'm going to add that across the front of my card. With this month's Glimmer of the Month, you get this really cool speckled aura, which is kind of like a gold holographic glimmer foil, which I really love, but I want a plain foil for today, so I'm going to use this gold. And I would say if you're just starting out with foiling, for me, gold is definitely the one that I use most, although I also use a lot of black as well. And I love the colours and I use them quite often, but just not as much as the black and the gold. So I'm going to cut a piece of that for that, and I'm also going to cut a piece for my sentiment. And if you don't have a hot foil machine, then there are loads of other ways that you can kind of get this similar look. So you could use some of your foiled pattern papers for a really easy card. You could heat embossing gold. So I would say adapt the card for what you have in your stash. So I'm going to place this towards the top of my card. So then I'm going to add this on with my yellow tape, and then I'm going to heat emboss the Merry Christmas onto red cardstock. And then I'm going to hot foil the Merry Christmas onto red cardstock. So I'm going to pop that on here. So it always goes cardstock, then the foil pretty side up, then the hot foil plate, and then I just flip it upside down to go on the hot foil machine. So my hot foil machine's heated up. I can tell that because the green light's on. So I'm going to put my hot foil plate on that so it's upside down, touching the hot plate. Then I'm going to put on my timer. When that stops flashing, I know I can put it through my die cutting machine. So then I'm going to put this in here to heat up again. I'm going to take this off. And you've got that gorgeous foiling. So then I'm going to add the foil to the bottom. I'm just going just underneath the foiling we've already done. And then I'm going to take this back on. Now I don't really want that tape to go onto the existing foil, so it'll probably tear it off a bit. So I'm going to wrap this piece around the side. So then I'm going to add this on up here, and then I can add my sentiment on down the bottom as well. I'll just press the timer again. So then we've got our nicely foiled lights, and then we've also got our Merry Christmas. So then I can just add the die over there and cut that out. So I'm going to go for pretty traditional colours on today's cards. So I'm going to colour my baubles in red, green and yellow. And then I think all we need on that is our sentiment. So I'm going to just pop some vellum behind that. Vellum is really good at just kind of focusing. So you can see there, it's not as easy to read the sentiment because you've got all that colouring and foiling behind it. But this just tones down the background so that then you can read the sentiment better. So I'm going to add that to my vellum and then add it to my card. And I love this sentiment because it's just the right size to be a statement on a card without taking over. So you'll be seeing a lot of this today. So then I'm going to add some glue behind the sentiment underneath the vellum, because I don't want the glue to show through the vellum, so I'm just doing it underneath the sentiment. So then just added that across there. So then I think that's really cute and it really makes the most of that background. So then for my next card, I'm going to use this 3D embossing folder of the month, and it gives this really sweet embossed image with the candy canes, the poinsettia, the foliage, And I'm going to do one of my favourite techniques for embossing folders like this, and that is just to colour in the image. And this does take a little bit of time, but I think that the result is worth it, and it gives a really nice kind of focal point effect. And obviously after you've done all this hard work, then you want this to be the focus of your card. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So then there's my finished coloured image, and I think that's really sweet. And I've cut it down, so this is 4 by 5¼ inches. So I've got a red card blank that is 4¼ by 5½ inches. And then I'm actually going to do very similar to what I did on the last card, and just add on a foiled sentiment and a piece of vellum. But this time, because I've not got anything on the card front, I can just fold my vellum round the back of my mat, and that makes a nice neat piece of vellum without having to worry about where the sentiment's going to go. So I'm just popping some double-sided tape behind there and just folding it round, and then I can just glue on my sentiment. And then I'm going to glue this to my card front. So I think that background really packs a punch on that card. So for this next card, I'm going to use the Stencil of the Month Club. And I'm just going to place the stencil on my card. And I could just press it down around the outside because I'm using my grippy mat. And then I'm going to use my Just Green Crisp Dye Ink from Altenew. And I'm just going to add that onto here. And the best thing about this grippy mat as well is it actually holds my ink in place as well. So I can just do this with one hand and not worry about it slipping and sliding all over the place. So there's that green layer done. So then I'm going to position on this layer here. I'm using pretty traditional colours in this video, so I'm going to go with red for the other layer. So this is the crimson ink. So then I've cut this down to 4½ inches by 3¼ inches. I've cut a piece of red cardstock that's 1/8 inch bigger, and a piece of gold cardstock that's 1/8 inch bigger again, and then I've got a piece of green cardstock that's 4¼ by 5½ inches. So I'm just going to layer those up. So then I've got this poinsettia and a bit of foliage, and this is actually from the Die of the Month Club from July. It's this little skate with a poinsettia and some foliage. I think most people have something similar to this in their collections, or even another flower that's not a poinsettia that you can kind of make Christmassy. I think a lot of flowers look quite Christmassy when they're cut in red anyway. So I'm just going to add one of my Fashion Gold embellishments to this. This is an absolute must in my craft room. I go through loads of these golds. And then this Merry Christmas I've foiled just like we did on the other cards. So I'm just going to lay this out, and then I can choose where everything's going to go so it can get stuck down. So I'm going to add on this leaf, and then I'm going to pop this up on some foam strips. So I'll link to this July set below. I will say that a lot of these clubs are still available after the month is over. So sometimes they sell out within the month, but often there's enough left over for them to put them on sale after the month. But I will also say that they are more expensive when they go on sale then. So for me, if you love something, sign up for the club. If you don't want a subscription, then you can always cancel it again. You don't get penalised for only signing up for a month, and in fact you get, I think it might be 10% off all your Spellbinders orders in the month that you're in the club as well, so that's a nice little added benefit. And then the other thing that's quite good is that if you're looking at this video and thinking, I really like a lot of these clubs and I want to use these to make my Christmas cards this year, then they also have a deluxe caboodle, which I would suggest looking at if you're going to buy a few, because the deluxe caboodle is £120 if you buy it from the UK, $120 if you buy it from the US, but it contains all 10 of the month's clubs, which that's actually a cheaper price than paying for the top 5 individually, or the most expensive 5 individually. So basically you're getting 5 free clubs and you get a free gift as well. And like I said, you can carry on that subscription going because the clubs are really nice. But if you just want this month's, then you can just take advantage of it for the month and then cancel it before the next month's payments come out. So this is super cute, and now I can just turn it over and add it to my card front. And actually, because stenciling is quite a quick and easy technique, it's quite a quick card to make as well, so you could easily kind of batch make these and it wouldn't take a ridiculous amount of time. I know Christmas is often a time that people like to batch make because so many people have so many to make. So that's that card finished. I love the kind of gold with the traditional colours on that. So then for my next card, I'm going to use the other stencils in the Stencil of the Month Club. And I should have shown you this before. So the Stencil of the Month Club this month isn't just those patterns we used on the other one, but also these baubles. So you get 3 layers to the baubles. You get 2 sets of baubles and the kind of bauble hangery bits. So I'm going to do them in the same colours as the last card that I did. So I'll do these ones in the red. So that was the crimson, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of velvet, which is just the darker shade, just to give it kind of a little bit of dimension. So that's that first layer. And you can see that extra added bit of colour just lifts it a little bit. So then this one is the one that we can add on the other colour with. So here I'm going to go in again with the Just Green, and I am not going through those bauble hanger pieces. I want to do that afterwards. And then this time I'm going to go in with Hunter Green as the second colour. So then I'm going to wash off my stencil. So then I want both pieces of the kind of bauble hanger, if that's the right word for it, to be gold. So I'm going to grab some embossing ink from my embossing pad re-inker, and I'm just going to get a bit of that on my blending tool, and I'm just going to add it through the stencil. So then I'm going to heat emboss that with gold embossing powder. So we've got the nice shiny piece on top. So I'm going to pop that back on there, and then I'm going to pop this on, and then I'm going to repeat the same process through these holder bits. And then I'm going to heat emboss those in gold as well. So I think those look really cute. The other thing you could do if you wanted to add a pattern onto the baubles is put the bauble one on and then put this one on over the top, so that when you're stenciling it only goes through the baubles, and then you could stencil through there and get the pattern from here onto your baubles. I'm going to leave mine plain for today. And then I'm going to finish this off in a really simple way. So I'm just going to add some foam to the back of a frame. So I've just cut that with 2 stitched rectangle dies. Into the back of my sentiment. I'm using that same sentiment again because I just love that so much. So I'm not going to put any foam tape on either end of my sentiment on the C and the S. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on those because those are going to overlap my frame. So then I can add on my frame. And then I'm going to add on some of these fashion gold gems again as well. So then I think that came out really cute. So then for my final card, I'm going to use this Designer Plaid Better Press of the Month Club. So you get these plates to make up your plaid, and then you also get these sentiments. So Christmas cheer, making spirits bright, warm winter wishes, joy o' Noel, and peace and joy. And the nice thing about those is that they all press together, and then you've got the dies to cut them out all together as well. So I'm actually going to do a mix of foiling and better pressing on this one. So I'm going to do the better press bit first. So we've got a better press guide. I'm going to add that onto my thing here. And then I can use my guide to place my plates. So I'm going to go with this one first. I'm going to go a bit rogue with this one. And I'm just going to use ordinary cardstock. And I'm just going to use my crisp dye inks, the same ones I used for the last couple of cards on this. I've not tried these on the Better Press before, so we'll see how it turns out. Looks like it should be okay because it seems to be sticking to the plates okay. So I'm just going to run that over there. So that's the crimson, and I'm just going to pop this back on here. And I'm going to pop that through my die cutting machine. So that's come out really nicely. I'm really happy with that. Obviously you don't get the letterpress look because I'm just using ordinary paper, but I'm not worried about that. I just want a print on this one. So then I'm going to clean that off. And then I'm going to move it over so you can see this other pink line over here. So I'm using the lines of the guide as to where to put it. And that means it'll be nice and straight and evenly spaced. And then for this one, I'm going to use the Just Green. Again, it's one that we used on the other cards that we've just made. So then I'll pop that through. So there we've got that. So then we can use the one that goes across. And again, I'm going to do one stripe in red and one stripe in green. And this is the kind of thing that I love my Better Press for, because you get such a nice crisp image. Whereas if I tried to stamp with a normal stamp like this, very often I kind of get a bit of a bobbly finish with something that is that flat. So then I'm going to remove this from here, and now I want to do my foiling. So I'm going to cut some gold foil to fit my press plate. And if you've got a Better Press machine but you don't have a foiling machine, then you could ink up your Better Press plates with embossing ink and then heat emboss it in gold and get a similar look. I'm going to foil mine, so I'm just going to line up my foil plate. So you can see I foiled that, but actually it underfoiled slightly because I forgot I'm using a slightly thinner cardstock to usual, so I should have used a shim. But actually you're not going to see so much of it, so I'm not too worried. I was going to do another foil stripe down here, but actually because of the way I'm going to build my card, I'm not going to need that. So I'm going to glue this to my card front. And then I don't know if any of you remember this stitching day of the month from July. And this is one of my favourite ever club kits. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. And it creates this huge big bow, but you don't need to use it stitched. I've actually used it quite a few times not stitched. So I'm just going to make that up on my card front. And actually it's nice having the July and the October kits. So even though the October's kind of more cutesy and I guess the July one's kind of a bit more traditional, there's actually a lot of it that really goes nicely together. So you can kind of mix and match. So if you do subscribe to the clubs, make sure you kind of look back at your clubs from other months as well, because they do combine really nicely. So I'm just popping this together. And I popped some foam pads behind my bow. So I hot foiled the sentiments from the BETTERPRESS set, and I'm going to add one of those onto my card. I think I'm going to use this Christmas cheer. So then I'm just going to pop that up on a foam strip. So then there we've got our finished card. So now we've got all 5 of today's cards. I really hope that you enjoyed creating them with me. Please do let me know which is your favourite in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below. You can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.